Want to help me make this a happier and healthier world? Like this video and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to work with me, go find me at ryanspence.biz. I'm kind of curious. So why do you think that is? Why does that feel safer to you than just directly, a one-on-one collaboration?
Oh, I mean, that's a good question. And I think part of that too maybe is like a comfort level on interacting, because I do feel like sometimes for me, a one-on-one conversation with somebody that you don't know that well can be harder, when you have that awkward silence. And I think those are the times that I feel like, but like in a group setting, I think I'm more comfortable in group setting.
Okay.
And maybe it comes down, maybe it's that, maybe it's a deep down that I'm actually like, I'm worried to do like a one-on-one with somebody that I don't know that well, and then be like awkward conversation or something like that.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, because it's always a risk. I mean, to have a conversation and not have that rapport, because you have no idea how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like, that's a little bit with how I am. I mean, fortunately, I've been starting to do this with all my friends and people I've had rapport with, but I haven't even gotten to the phase where I've run out of friends yet to where I'm like, okay, I'm going to interview this person I've never interviewed or really talked to before. You're the closest to that of all the people that I've talked to. And I mean, we've talked a couple times. I know we have a good rapport in your stream, especially. But yeah, that would be, I could completely understand that. That would be really challenging, because then you're on the hook for like a 4 to 6 hour stream or something like that, talking to that person.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you still prefer, like, if you could feel comfortable in both, would you prefer a group stream or a one-on-one stream with a bigger streamer?
Group, I think.
Group? Okay. So you still think, so it sounds like your preference would be a group. There's more people to talk to and less chance. Okay. Makes sense. So it sounds like a little bit more so on the collab side, there's maybe a little bit of anxiety around them saying no, around rejection.
Yeah.
A little bit of like, well, if they say no, is that a reflection of me?
Yeah.
And then also a little bit of, hey, if I ask this person and I don't know them very well, it could be really awkward too.
Yes.
I don't know if they'll go
100%.
well. Yeah, all very valid concerns. So, okay. So it sounds like, and you've been doing it seems like you've been doing quite a few group streams though lately, right? You've been doing like squads.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all that I do now.
Mm-hmm. And so do you enjoy those more than your just solo streaming?
I do now, yeah. That's like a whole other like deep topic, which we can get into for sure.
Yeah, of course. I love this conversation. So you're just bringing all this great knowledge to me. So I'm loving it. Keep going.
Okay. And I think it's good too, because I think these are things that maybe people don't know, because I think like when people watch me, because I am like, which we started the podcast talking about, is like, I'm so focused on like, I'm entertaining right now. Like, and like my job is to deliver that. And then, so I think people don't realize these thoughts that I have. So I think it's probably it's something people will learn from me. But so to summarize, I have like a long story, but I'll summarize it. So basically for a long time in my stream, I had somebody who was a super big supporter of my stream, which I would say like financial support. Like they would donate so many subs or just drop donations and things like that. And it was just somebody who like I felt like was like clawing their way in, and it was me and a few other streamers dealing with this person. And like for Sea of Thieves, for example, like if you're friends in Sea of Thieves, I don't know if it's the same now, but like this person would just join in my game. Like as soon as I logged into the game, they'd join my game without asking me. And obviously, like when somebody is supporting your stream in a significant way, you feel like maybe in the sense of like, oh, I owe them or I should play with them because they are supporting me, and you want to like show that you're grateful back. And so I felt like, okay, like if they're joining in my game, then I'm obligated to play with them. And this person would just always do that. And I think it's a manipulative thing because if, if they ask me, hey, can I play with you today? I have the opportunity to say, no, I'm going to do my solo thing today, or I'm going to play with this person today. But when they join in your game, you then have to boot them out of your game.
Yeah.
You have to kick them out. You have to be the bad guy. And so this person put me in this situation almost every single day. And they're not part of my stream anymore, and they'll never be it again. But I really that took a long time for me to get over. I really didn't want to play with anybody except my super, super close friends. But I played Sea of Thieves solo, which they can play solo. But man, that game is so much more fun when you play with people. But it took me a really long time to be comfortable playing with people again because of that. And it was a learning experience for me, needless to say. Nowadays, I feel like I draw that line right off the bat of when somebody is a big supporter of me, I want them to know how grateful I am and how much it does for me as a full-time streamer and all of that. But also that that doesn't give anybody the right to or any entitlement to play my game when they see fit or this and that, because you want to collaborate with other people or you want to play solos or not. You want to be, that's you should be in control of that always. So I always draw that line now. But I will say that the streamer that I play with, there's two streamers I play with almost every single day now, Alex and that Z71 guy. But Alex was somebody who, he and I streamed at the exact same time. He started streaming almost exactly a year ago, and he had just reached out to me one day and said, hey, we have the same time slot. Would you want to play together? So I was like, okay. And, trying to push myself because I was very aware that I was uncomfortable playing with people. And so I was like, and I would try to push myself and play with people. And he and I had such a great time. And then I don't even know how, it just kind of slowly happened where we started doing this thing where it was just an everyday thing. We started playing together. And I feel like it finally broke that cycle for me. And now I feel so happy to play with people, and I really enjoy that. I guess, and I've shared this on stream, I get a little worried when people ask me to play because I am really cautious about it now.
Yeah.
And that person, that person that used to support me, would sometimes, whenever you're playing with somebody on your stream, it's different than just playing with somebody off stream, right? Yeah. Because you're performing, you have your live stream going, you're talking to your chat, and so sometimes people can be dominating, when you're on Discord together and they're talking over you, or they're doing their own kind of performing, they're singing over you or things like that, where it gets to be a little much, or things you hear their mechanical keyboard in the background, or things that I feel like they're maybe not as mindful of. And and I would try to tell them hey, you're this is coming through on your microphone. Do you mind muting? And I'm just never doing it. And it's those little irritations and things that you deal with. So I am just so cautious of who I play with now and who I kind of let in that zone. And I try to tell people that because I don't want people to feel that rejection of they ask me to play and I say no. And that's why I try to tell them on stream, FYI, here's why. I'm just very cautious about it now. And I like to really get to know people before I open that door, or get to know them through somebody else who will vouch for them. But I will say Alex and that Z71 guy, those two other streamers have helped me so much to be comfortable again to play with people, because that is what streaming is all about. You can have so much fun with playing with people.
Yeah, I love that story. Obviously not the negative that you had to go through, but battling through that, because I've heard of situations where you have very generous monetary wise donators and people to the stream, but they think that gives them the right to hey, I'm your boyfriend now, or I'm not your favorite person, you need to show me this much attention and stuff like that. And I think that's really important for viewers to know too. To understand that side of it. I'm glad that you share that story with people, because I'm sure that helps them understand why. It's not oh, I don't want to play with, viewers. You want to play with viewers, but you want to play with people that you're going to have a good time with, but you're still on a show where
Yeah.
if you hear those clickings or you hear people that don't know how to go on mute or all that stuff, then you're going to lose viewers, and then or it's just going to be distracting or anything like that, and then that's going to have a negative ramification on you. Like it sounded like you were even kind of building up, like we all do. If we don't say something, we build it, like internally, we build resentment.
Yeah. And I think it was like learning how to say something. But the funny thing is now, like, because we obviously as streamers play together all the time, and we try, obviously we respect each other, but every now and then you forget to mute,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, so and so, thanks for the sub. But we just, we like, just pick at each other for it. Like, oh, so and so, thanks for the sub. And you're like, oh, sorry. But it's it's a lighthearted way to handle it. Like, and sometimes, I mean, some people just, if they're not streamers or they're not mindful of that. And and I hope, and most people, I think if you tell them, like, just privately say, hey, this is coming through on your microphone, can you use toggle mute or this or that? They get it, but I feel like there is just like this like unwritten etiquette. And it's just, you really, like, for me, I want to make sure people know that from watching me first before they play with me.
I love that. So to your point, I think a lot of streamers would think there's an unwritten etiquette. For other streamers would know that, but the viewers, is maybe you're saying, the viewers may not know that unless you communicate that out there. Say, hey, this is why I only pick specific people that I have rapport with, that know that, hey, I'm entertaining, or when's a good time to talk, when's not a good time to talk and stuff. Because again, it's on a show. If it were off stream, like you said, it's a lot less pressure. Talk as much as you want, all that. But you're right, it's not the same thing as playing off stream and on stream.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's like, I didn't know about that. And that's definitely something that is a challenge for people too, is dealing with those really, I don't know how you would call them, maybe the manipulative viewer, or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, and I've had like a few people sense that, it's like they almost try to start saying, like, which I don't mind, obviously, if people see something that they think would improve my stream, I don't mind them suggesting things, for sure, because I feel like we're always growing, always learning, always improving. But the people that feel like some sense of control on your stream, I feel like now I recognize it now, and I just have to immediately draw that line of like, hey, like, I appreciate you, but I need you to respect that this is still my business, and this is still my live stream. Well,
and I think even you have a good attitude about it, of saying, hey, suggestions are welcome. I think even a lot of streamers aren't even open to suggestions. They're just like, hey, this is the way I'm doing it, and so, I mean, I think I love that perspective you have. Suggestions are welcome, but when there's a line in your head, you draw the line and say, hey, okay, nope, or this is the rules, or something like that. I like that, because otherwise, if we don't set those boundaries, this is true with anything in life, with dating, with friends, with anything. If we don't set those boundaries and communicate, then people are going to keep doing the thing, and we're going to build resentment in our head. It's like, why do they keep doing this? Why do they keep making the suggestion, or why do they keep jumping in my game? If we don't communicate it, they're going to keep doing it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a quote. I don't know who said it or whatever, but the quote was, what you allow will continue. And I feel like it's extremely true. And I have learned to, like, politely but firmly, like, stick up for myself, in those situations, and not learning it the hard way, but kind of saying, like, you just have to politely tell people no, or politely tell people, this is my line. Like, please don't cross it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's something we can all benefit from. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm glad we went on that. That was not a topic we were planning on talking about, but that's super valuable. I love it. Are you okay with taking some questions from chatters?
Sure.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you guys. I've been kind of keeping an eye on chat a little bit, but I wanted to make sure to give my full attention to BB. But what questions do you guys have for BB? I love that last topic too, and good to see a Happa Bear. And let's see, we have Zach still in chat here. Welcome. The Awakening. I saw Who Cares here earlier, and Pudone. Good to see you guys. What questions do you have for BB as we wrap up the show? Yeah, Happa's going to think of a question. So Happa is also a Hearthstone streamer if you haven't had a
Oh,
chance to
cool.
meet her. So I've met her, I guess just one time. It was at TwitchCon
Yeah.
2019. But
I
yeah, good
am
to see.
so sad TwitchCon didn't happen this year.
I
I
know.
understand it, obviously, but
Yes.
but man, like you said in the beginning, I do miss that opportunity to hang out with the people that we don't get to see because we live so far apart. Um, and
Yeah, I mean it
hopefully
is.
next year.
I know, and I'm actually taking a trip to LA in a couple weeks. I'll wear my mask and I will be safe, everybody. I promise. But
Yeah.
like it's also a personal thing for me to like go to California every year for the last couple
Yeah.
years. So it was something that it was really out of my comfort zone to go travel by myself to California, and I did that. So I'm like, I still need to go. I'll be safe as I need to be and stuff. And I had to make a flight a couple months ago too, and it was fine on the plane. So as long as I had a mask on and all that stuff.
Yeah. Have
Uh,
you had
but
to have a COVID test yet?
I haven't actually. But I also haven't had any symptoms. Well, I take that
Yeah.
back. Yeah, I don't think I mean, I've had. I think when I moved here, I was sick, like kind of a cold sick, but I was also going under a lot of stress of selling my house.
Yeah.
Um, moving to a brand new city, doing all the moving myself, selling from an 1,800 square foot home to paring down to an 800 square foot apartment in a new city and all that stuff. So I had like a long cold for a while, but I haven't had the COVID test. Have you had it?
Yeah. Only because like we were traveling to Mexico. We
Oh
do a
yeah.
group friend trip every year, but man, of course it was originally scheduled for May, which was right deep when everything was beginning. Then it got scheduled for July and then August, and then we eventually went in September. But they told us ahead of time, oh, you have to get tested before you come. So everybody had to
Really?
get tested.
Interesting.
Nobody asked for my results. They were like, "Oh, at the airport, you have to show your results," which actually our friends did. Uh, and they flew out of the same airport as we did, but they were on Delta and we were on United. And so they didn't. And then so after I got back, I got tested as well.
Yeah.
And it's not very pleasant, but
Yeah.
I didn't have
You got the
COVID.
nose the
So
nose swab,
yeah.
the
Oh
brain
man.
swab. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
sounds horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, one
Well,
of them it wasn't too bad, and the ones I did, I guess, are supposed to be less invasive. But man, one of the ones like your eyes start watering. You're like, oh god,
yeah. Well, and I have I have allergies too, so it doesn't take very much
yeah,
to trigger like anything in my sinuses. So I just thinking about that like makes my sinuses swell up and
yeah.
uh,
I immediately like sneezed right after.
yeah, I bet. I bet. So it looks like we got a couple questions rolling through here, so I'll sum those up. And actually, this will be edited down on YouTube. I've hired a YouTube editor, guys. So
Woohoo!
I know I moving up in the world. Hiring.
Yeah.
I've learned that it's better for experts to do what they're good at.
Yes, I
Yes.
literally I learned the same thing, and I also just hired a YouTube editor because
Yeah.
I tried to make my own YouTube videos, and I realized, like you said, like sometimes you just need a specialist because I just don't have that talent.
It eats up a lot of time, and it's
Yeah.
surprisingly expensive to do YouTube editing because nobody wants to do it. It's so monotonous. I mean, I did it for a good couple months, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I learned how to do that. But that's also like I also know my personality is I get burned out doing kind of the mundane things all the time,
Yeah.
and it takes me away from the creative process of creating videos. And I'm creating like teaching courses and stuff for my coaching business and all that. So it's going to keep me from putting more products out there, as well as I have to have energy for myself or I get really angry and frustrated. And
Yeah.
yeah. So
I feel that for sure.
yes. Well, yeah. Yeah, you have is your YouTube is just BBXH?
Yep.
Yep, that's right. And also, I forgot as soon as I knew we were going to be able to interview, you guys have to go to her channel just for her intro at the very, very least. Her intro is amazing. Do you still have your intro for your Twitch? I think you.
Yeah, and I have
that's
a Halloween one right now.
Oh, yeah, Halloween. Oh, I gotta check that out. But she
With me
has
getting terrified.
she has one of the greatest intros in the history of movies. Like I saw this a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I love it so freaking much. And it's on her YouTube, and she still has it on her Twitch channel, but you got to go check it out.
Yeah.
So BBXH, search for her on YouTube. So
Oh,
who
yeah.
cares? Yeah, I love it so much. It's so super cool. And I just found it again. I just found it on YouTube like a couple months ago and commented
I haven't
on
watched him forever. It still makes me laugh sometimes of like the like like
My
the
God.
shooting the gun.
I guarantee you, every at least guy in this stream wants to have a video exactly like what you have, or is try to mimic this in like when they're like 6 years old. I know I have.
Oh yeah. It was not as easy as I thought, like pretending to fire a gun. But that took me a few tries, and they were like, yeah, like, I don't, and I kept twisting the guns. It was so bad.
Well,
Which
now
turned
you
out good
know.
in the end.
Now you know.
Yes.
Yeah, it's wonderful now. So
You can think of that when you watch.
yeah, now I'm gonna have to watch it again. I'm gonna have to watch this like a fourth or fifth time now. It's that good. Going to the Q&A, Who Cares says, do you think a streamer who isn't necessarily the best at the game can still find success with the game? So like he's talking in reference like Sea of Thieves even.
Yeah. I think when as a streamer, you got to find like what makes you unique and what's going to bring it into your channel. Is it your gameplay? Are you like a great competitor and that's why people watch you? Are you hilarious and tell funny jokes? Or are you good conversationalist? Like I feel like I'm pretty good at Sea of Thieves, but in the beginning I wasn't. And like I'm good at PvP now, I feel, but in the beginning I was not, and I had to learn it. But I feel like I shine in conversation and being attentive to my chat, and I feel like that's my thing. Like I know I'm never going to be a pro player in any game, and that's not going to be why people come to my channel, but I just go with my strengths. So you just have to figure out what your strength is, but I feel like you do not have to be a pro player.
I love hearing that too, because that's been like one of my case studies and I'm going to eventually do a YouTube video on is like what brings viewers to Twitch. And I think you hit on a couple of those. It's like you can either be a really high ranked player and people want to see the highest ranks.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you also talked about, your personality or being a social stream too. It sounds like those are two big reasons. Would you say, is there, I know I'm throwing you on the spot, but any other reasons you think people that will draw viewers to you on Twitch?
To me personally or in general?
In general.
In general, like I said, like being funny. Like I always try to think about I mean, everybody watches, I feel like, YouTube for one thing or another. And for me, there was, because you and I both obviously love fitness, there's a bunch of fitness YouTubers I like, and there's some girl that does fashion, like DIYs. Like I'm never gonna DIY make a dress. I'm just not. So but this girl, her name's Amber Scholl, she's just so goofy and she's beautiful. So I think that obviously draws you into her, but she's just so freaking goofy. And I realized why, when I was trying to figure out like what should I do on Twitch, I figured looked at the people that I like to watch on Twitch and on YouTube and this and that, and I'm like, what's drawing me to them? Why do I like them? Like, is it I feel like sometimes people just having a clean setup, like clean overlays, and it looks organized and nice. You're like, oh, okay, like you give them a chance because of that. It's just little things that, it's like, I feel like it's equivalent of like a nice looking thumbnail that catches your eye on YouTube, and then their personality from there. For me, I'm most drawn to the people, that they're a little bit silly. I think, maybe they're not the best at what they do, but man, their personality just draws me in more than anything.
Yeah, I think those exact same things. I like to think of it: entertainment, community, or high level gameplay. Or, again, you're just drawn to that person or their setup. Like I'm very drawn to your setup too, because your setup's just so, like, it's one of the best like video sound setups I've seen on Twitch.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I will say I had so much help with it. Cause I don't know if you remember, but man, I had a green screen pretty much. Well, yeah, from like my starting of stream until within this past year, I just switched to the whole like stuff on my shelves background.
Yeah.
But I had a green screen before that, and man, like I had the same camera, the same lens on the camera with the green screen, and nobody asked me ever like what camera I have or things like that. Man, and now that I have a background, people ask me all the time.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was but I also sometimes I work with Stream Elements, who makes alerts and things like that for people who don't know, but I'll work with them sometimes doing tutorial videos. And so one time, obviously with COVID, you have to kind of work with what you got. So they weren't able to hire a crew. So they're like, okay, we're going to try to make this look as best we can with your setup at home. So man, I got on like a call like this and they told me how to do my lights and where to put them. And it changed my game. Like even like before I had the lighting set up, same thing. As soon as I switched it to how it is now, I can't tell you how many people came in and they're like, whoa, new camera. And I'm like, no, same camera. It's just complete different lighting. But I had somebody who knew what they were doing, that just telling me, and there's YouTube videos about it as well. So I highly recommend that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think I need to do that too because I switched to like a normal background, and like if I had like the lighting and like the kind of that zoom or the fade or whatever in the back, that would look so much better for mine. I love it so much.
You could just go make like a hot pocket in your microwave.
Anytime. I know.
Is that what you do on stream? Just go back there.
I should do that. That's going to be my new cooking stream, is just making a couple hot pockets. So, all right, cooking stream's over, guys. Good. Let's go raid somebody. No,
or they just turn around and start playing the games. You know, you don't even have to stop the stream.
It's great.
It's great.
It is very convenient. Yes,
I like it.
Kappa Bear asks, how do you handle disagreements in chat between regulars that turn nasty, if that ever happens?
Oh, it definitely happens. And I feel like there's sometimes where they'll just, like, some people's personalities, you know, they're just a little argumentative.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. I try to tell people, like, hey, take it to DMs, please. Like, if they're having some kind of argument that I'm not involved in and it's not relevant, I tell them, y'all, like, just take it like to DMs. My chat's not the place for it. But I mean, there's some people in the past that were regulars in my stream that just always wanting to like start arguments, and like, so, and there's a few people that have gotten to a point where you have to ban them because their toxicity is just not, you know, worth it, and not clicking with your chat anymore. But for the most part, or like, and there's times too where the people that are my like OGs and my regulars, where I've had to like DM people and I'm just like, hey, like, okay, this is starting to go down a negative route, and or just like DM them. And I think people respond well to that. If it is someone that you feel close enough and to that point where you feel like it would be like they're almost like your like a friend, where you would just say, hey, like, what's going on here? Yeah. And then people reel it back in. Honesty is always the best policy.
Absolutely. I love honesty, and I think also communication too. Because again, if you don't say anything, they're going to keep doing it. Because I mean, we're all human. We get wrapped up in something that gets frustrating, and then you're like over here in the moment. It's like, whoa, hold on here. Let's, you know, probably just you saying take it to DMs. They're probably like, oh, I didn't realize I was so wrapped up in being so negative or so argumentative. Yeah. I like that.
It is true. Like sometimes, like you said, like pointing it out. So I never even like got to this. I skipped over it at my own topic, but that modeling school, I actually worked there for like 10 years, Barbizon. And I mean, like it was such a fun time and a big part of my life, and I loved it. But part of it is like when the people, like if a student would show up for class that hadn't paid, they can't come in, and that was my job, and I hated that part of it. I'm so like, you know, and dealing with the parents like that. But they taught you that, like, sometimes if you're on the phone with somebody and they start yelling you, to point it out to them, to say, you're yelling at me right now. And it works. Once you like say it to them, they're like, oh, like I'm doing this right now. Not always, but it was something that they taught us to do. So interesting that you say that.
I like that. I'm gonna call that out.
Most people, I feel like I never got into like that deep with, like, because I wasn't the collection side of it, but you know, sometimes you have to like point it out to people.
Yeah, I like that. We're getting all sorts of different good conflict resolution from BB. I feel like we need a conflict resolution corner with BB now. This is good. I love it. Happen's got another good question. So how do you deal with, do you ever deal with streamer burnout? And if so, how do you help alleviate that while still maintaining a consistent schedule?
Man, I feel like I did with that recently, honestly. Most people probably have no idea, but because like I say, I always will like push through. But I mean, it starts to affect me, and like I feel like I keep up with things less and less when I have burnout. And I think it's just because like, see, at these, we're all kind of waiting for a update that is something a little bit juicier. Like they do updates monthly, which I appreciate, but sometimes it's a little lackluster. And I think everybody's kind of wanting something new. And so lately I've felt it big time. But have you played Phasmophobia yet?
No, I haven't. I saw you
Oh,
playing it. I was going to ask you about that
yeah.
too at some point.
I'm
But
obsessed.
so
And
I watched you a little bit with it. Is it like
okay,
it's kind of like is a horror game, like a
yeah, you're
mystery
a
game?
ghost hunter.
Okay.
And so you go in this house with like your EMF reader and your
Hmm.
thermometer, if you've ever watched Ghost Hunters or whatever.
Okay.
And you have to identify the ghost. That thing comes after you and that thing scares you. But it
Oh,
was just, I needed that so bad. Just
yeah.
something fresh. And I always start with Sea of Thieves.
Hmm.
So, because my regulars, my regular game, and then but the end of my streams I've been doing Phasmophobia, and I feel like just like letting yourself having that time with like if you can find a different game, something, and I'm so enjoying it, and you can play it with friends, and it's a fun one to play with friends. I feel like just switching it up will help you with that. That's what helps
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and it's nice that it sounds like you're confident in a point to where you after you what you've gone through with the numbers, like the swings in the
Yeah.
numbers too. I mean, assuming people drop off quite a bit when you play that?
Not as much as normal. I think because it's still new and
Okay.
exciting. But you're right. Like typically your numbers drop off, but I feel like you just have to prepare for that. But I always recommend starting with your main game no matter what, because that's what
Hmm.
your core viewership comes from,
Yeah.
and to build up that momentum first, and then just do your last hour or whatever you want of stream like on something else that you prefer instead. Maybe
Yeah.
just to take a break from your game.
Well, and I think also I would get, well, I'll ask you this. I mean, do you think it's also a function of the fact that you built such a good community too, that you have more people there?
Yes, and I think I definitely have my community with Sea of Thieves is different. It's way different than it was with Clash Royale, and I think that is because of those tournaments. Because a lot of people were coming to my channel because they wanted to win. Maybe not necessarily for my
Hmm.
content, but because they wanted to win these cards or they
Hmm.
wanted to win gift cards and stuff like that. And I realized that it almost like inflates your numbers a little bit,
Yeah,
following wise or
exactly.
concurrent viewership just temporarily, but then as soon as the tournament's closed or whatever, it levels out back to normal. But in the long haul, like I feel like when I first started that way, like I didn't create um like a long lasting bond with
Right.
majority of my
Yeah.
community. But I feel like with Sea of Thieves, I have for sure. And I because I feel like we are like there to play together and to I don't know, it's just such a different style game for sure.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. Like when you talked about, giving gift cards away, or, you're doing a tournament, you're attracting people that want that specific thing.
Yeah.
And so I think this is like a huge light bulb to me. But if you want to have a stream where you want to have a community, it has to be about community based things like what
Yeah.
you've done. I mean, you have to be like, you got to like be consistent to the game. You got to be reading chat. You have to be, very friendly, help other people out, be genuine. If
Yeah.
that's that's what you want, you have to do that. Otherwise, if you're going to do like, okay, well, I'm going to be high level gameplay this month, and this is what I'm going to do. Okay, now I'm just going to be a community stream. Well, guess what? All your people that came over for that one thing, are not going to be there later on,
Right.
most likely.
Yeah, and I kind of learned that the hard way too. Like with social media, man, they're all. We were just talking about this the other day, like on stream. They're all like individually their own beast, like Twitter versus Instagram, and the way to grow on all of them is all. It's a little bit different for each one, and
Yeah.
so it's hard. And I didn't know any better when I was starting out. Like all of this was so new to me, as it is for everybody. And I would do giveaways and things, and I really don't recommend that. Like for I do recommend it for like within your community. Like
Hmm.
who is there now? Like let them participate. But like throwing it out there, like I would do those giveaways that like, oh, if you follow my Twitter, it's an entry. If you follow my Instagram, it's an entry. And you
Hmm.
really do like end up inflating your numbers because people will make like 5 Twitter accounts
Yeah.
and follow you on all 5 of them. And they're real accounts essentially created by a real person, but it's an empty
Yeah.
account is
Yeah.
what I would call it. So I don't recommend doing that. And I learned it the hard way. You live and you learn. And so, yeah, I think, but yeah, building a community from the base up, it definitely takes a little bit longer, but that, like, the organicness of doing it will, in the long run, it will help you grow so much better.
Yeah, that's great advice. So yeah, I like that term empty. Like it's an empty
Yeah.
follower. It's somebody
Right.
there that followed you, and so it make your follower number look bigger if they even
Right.
stay. And then if they do stay, it's less likely to be like a viewer later on. And
Right.
then you have like this big viewer base where you're like, oh well, I have like these 10,000 followers or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
only 10 people are here. Then that makes you
Right.
feel that probably makes you feel even worse that you're like, well, I have these 10,000
Yes.
people that follow me, and now I have even less people actually watching me.
See, and that's exactly what I went through when I switched
Wow.
games, because I think I had all these people who followed me because they wanted to get into these tournaments and they wanted to be there for my Clash Royale tournaments. But beyond that, like once I stopped doing Clash Royale, then you know there. And I mean, obviously, when you switch a game, like it would be. I mean, I'm imagining people that I like to watch if they all of a sudden, their YouTube is like a fitness YouTube, and then they all of a sudden start making crafts, and you're like, wait
Yeah.
a second, like,
Right.
okay, I'm not interested in this, and it's not anything against them, it's just not what you're into, and so I
Yeah.
understand that.
Absolutely. Yeah, great advice. All right, I'm gonna go through the last couple questions because I had so much fun talking with Dee here that like it's both of our bedtimes pretty soon. So I want to wrap this up for both of us, but I've absolutely loved this conversation though. This has been
Same.
so good. Let's see. I love the point that Wicked mentioned about hot pockets being better than salads. I would not better for your body for sure. Especially in
Better
my
tasty.
mid-30s. Yeah, they are tastier than just a regular salad. But let's see. Yes, take it to the DMs. I like that. I'm there's a lot of things here that I'm totally stealing. Like some good
Oh
one-liners.
yeah.
It's like take it to the DMs, or you're yelling at me,
Yeah.
or yeah. Let's see. I'm so far behind on chat because I was just so into the conversation. Zach Attack, thank you for being here, by the way. You've been awesome in
Yeah.
chat. Yeah, Hearthstone's been a really challenging one as far as burnout. I mean, they do have more modes and actually going to release a new one, but it is like I think they're getting better with their cycles. Like they're releasing more updates, little minor
Yeah.
tweaks every month, kind of like you said with Sea of Thieves does
Yeah.
monthly. And I think that's helpful, but there's also only so much they can do because there's so many different factors that if they change too much, then they might break the
know.
game.
Right. All the balance changes and stuff. Yeah, I agree. It's the same thing, kind of like we're talking about, like where you're doing a match, and it's over and over. Especially like once you get, I feel like higher in the ranks in Hearthstone, you are like people are using meta decks because they work, and they're successful, and so then you're just going against similar decks. So I know like that's hard, and for the people that do that every single day, like. I mean, Ninja said that one time. He's like, he's like, the grass is always greener, or something along those lines. If he's like, if you all think I want to play Fortnite all day, every single day, you guys are crazy.
Yeah.
Even if you love a game like that, after a while, like it kind of loses its fun if you feel like, locked into it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that too. Is I don't know if I ever thought it was going to be a career for me to stream necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I know my personality that I get bored of things and I have to
Yeah.
have variety. So, but I have games since I was 4, so like 32 years, excuse me. Kind of sneak that in there. Wanted to do the math for you guys, but
Everyone's like,
said 30. Yes, how was he 36? No. So, but even so, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I could sit or stand there. Like, I'm standing right now, but I've been standing for 2 hours, and I would just get sick of that, or sitting down playing a game, unless there was something like World of Warcraft is like maybe the closest I could think of because it's basically
Yeah.
an emulation of life for me, But
Yeah.
even then, there's only so many things to do. But yeah, it would be really tough for me for sure.
what was like the first game that you ever really loved?
Oh man, probably Zelda actually on
Oh,
Nintendo when
yeah.
I was like 4 or 5. Um, Yeah, the original Zelda on Nintendo, and actually, ironically, I have an emulator, and I was playing that just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
How
That's
about you?
fun.
What's your favorite game?
I mean, my brother and I, our first console was a Sega.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and so we've always played Sega games. He was always more into console because then we had a PlayStation. We never had Nintendo, but we had PlayStation after that, and he would play like Resident Evil and stuff. And
Ooh,
it's
yeah.
so funny because he would be like, "Come watch me play," and I'd be like, "Who the heck wants to sit here and watch somebody play a video game?" And I'm
The
like,
irony.
"Oh man, now it's my
Full circle.
career." I know. But I think that my first like games that I really loved were EverQuest. I
Oh,
love,
yeah.
like you said, like Worldcraft felt like almost like similar to like real life. Man, that's my feels with EverQuest. I loved that game so
Oh,
much.
man. So I remember EverQuest. So I was in high school at that time when
Yeah.
EverQuest was a thing, and I had one of my friends who played it, and this was me being kind of a snob. I was into computer games. I just became like a computer game RPG nerd a couple of
Hmm.
months or a couple of years before that, and I would always go to my friend's house and I'd watch him play Final Fantasy VII or we'd
Oh
play
yeah.
some other games and stuff like that. But he got an EverQuest, and I remember being that was like kind of the first big, I think, MMO.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking
I
like,
think so.
why would you pay money for this game that you is like real life? And I was almost
Yeah.
kind of the rude nerd, or like the rude jock. Even though
Yeah.
I was a nerd in that situation, then came World of Warcraft my junior year of college, which I played for the first 2 years of it being out and enveloped me. I was much more nerdy about that or enveloped by that than he was with EverQuest. So I thought that
Yeah.
was really ironic.
I never got into WoW. I've played it for the first time a few years ago, and I don't know. I don't have those nostalgia feels for it
Oh my
like
gosh.
people do, but
Consider yourself lucky. I mean,
yeah, I do.
WoW is like the third most addictive drug behind
Yep.
sugar and cocaine, I'm pretty sure. It's somewhere on that list of the top three.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I had not known that you played EverQuest and Sega. And I also had a Sega as well. And they actually had this really cool thing called Sega Channel. So I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, and
Yeah.
it was this. I have no idea how they pulled this off, but there's this thing called Sega Channel where through your internet company, so we had cable internet, and it was like this cartridge that you put in your Sega, but then you put your coaxial cable into that cartridge. It was like a special cartridge that they made,
Whoa.
and you got 50 Sega games per month for like $15. I
Oh, I
I
don't think
know.
we ever did that. I don't
I
even
I don't think
remember
many
hearing about that.
I don't think many places had it, and I had no idea why Des Moines,
Uh,
Iowa, got that of like
yeah.
all places. But I went to the video game museum in Frisco, Texas, which is kind of a
Oh,
little bit disappointing of a museum, by the way. But it has
good to know.
it's basically I'm pretty sure it's just basically some older guy that just happens to own all these old systems.
Oh, you're retro.
I mean, it's and he has all these things, and the Sega Channel was featured there, and that's like the only other
Oh,
time I've saw the Sega Channel like talked about outside
yeah.
of my like me and a few of my friends having it. But
I
I loved
never heard.
Sega. Yeah, I loved
Yeah.
Sega. Check it out online. I'd be curious if like where else had it, but it was so cool. Like, you got 50 games a month, and there was only so many games on Sega, so there's
Yeah.
a lot of them that were rotating around. But I beat so many games on Sega because I was getting them every month for like $15. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so Wicked says it was the mythical thing when I was growing up that I read about, but never knew anybody who actually had it. Now you know. Me and one of my best friends, we played that all the time. That's so cool. It's a legendary card called Sega Channel. It's really good. So, uh, well, I mean, I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It was so much fun. I really appreciate you coming on. Is there any other final words you'd like to share with Chad or anybody else on YouTube or anything else that comes to mind?
I mean, I guess going on our topic of kind of like building your stream and stuff, and I don't know. I feel like there's so many people that come in my stream and ask, "Oh, what are some tips for somebody who's starting out, who's new?" And I feel like you really just have to like go for it and like turn the camera on, so to speak, if you want to, obviously, or turn the Twitch stream on and just start from there. And I feel like one of the biggest advice that I could give to people who want to grow is like we talked about. So like get involved in things outside of just turning your stream on, because it's so hard. Discoverability on Twitch is really difficult. And so I do recommend, obviously it's situational for the game you're playing or if you're doing IRL or what have you, but I feel like doing collaborations, and like that's something I'll work on, is like not being afraid to ask people to collaborate with you, and because you genuinely want to collaborate with them, and to network with them, and just doing other things outside of it, or like going to TwitchCon, figuring out there's so many places have like esports bars or these esports meetups, maybe not so much with COVID, but even digitally, doing like these Discord meetups, and just genuinely networking with people and getting to know people. I know there's been a few people, like one of my mods, she was so active in so many different channels, just genuinely, because she just, I don't know, loved talking to people and getting to know people, and she truly cared. And you would tell her something and she'd come in a week later and ask you about it, and follow up. So she did that for me and so many other streamers, and then she eventually started streaming. And for her, like right off the bat, like she started out like successful and like had people in her channel because she had genuinely networked with people, and people wanted, like, as soon as she was starting to stream, I so for sure wanted to support her. And so I feel like it's just an important thing to help you start.
I love that. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, that's how I had the viewership that I had too, is because I was part of many communities that I legitimately wanted to be a part of. I can affirm to that's a great way to go about it. So, I mean, it sounds like putting yourself out there and just being genuine about your intentions, being genuine as your personality, but making genuine connections. And that's like what we talked about with TwitchCon, and like one of your favorite things with being on Twitch is just getting to meet all these different people that you would never meet otherwise. And so Twitch is a beautiful medium for that too. Like we would have no way to ever connect had there not been like a TwitchCon or a Twitch to like, interact with. So if you think about all your personal relationships from Twitch, it's super fascinating.
It's crazy.
Yeah, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I love this interview. Thank you so much for being on and sharing all this knowledge. Like,
for sure.
I mean, just speechless. So good. So thank you again for taking the time to be on here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. I'm honored.
Yeah, thank you. Chat, thank you guys so much for being so awesome. We're gonna raid somebody. The question is, I don't know who we're gonna raid, but I don't know. But is there anybody on? I mean, I guess you've been focusing on me, but is there anybody on in the Sea of Thieves community? I've never.
Let's see who's on.
Because I agree, Sea of Thieves does look pretty cool as far as like the graphics.
And there's not too many people on. Maybe now's the time to be streaming Sea of Thieves.
Sunday evening. I think Sunday evenings are a good night to stream. I loved Sunday evenings because there was not that many Hearthstone streamers either. So it does seem to be the least amount of time people stream.
That's why I do early morning. People are always like, why do you stream so early? Well, like once I went full time, there was nobody on at 7 a.m. Eastern. So I just fit in there as a smaller streamer. So, let's see. I mean, Timmy T5 is doing Sea of Thieves.
Timmy T5. Okay, is it all one word?
Yeah, or Freyline. Oh, Freyline is on. She is a wonderful person.
All right, we're gonna raid. Yeah, we're gonna raid Freyline. Thank you, Zach Attack. I appreciate it. And I like the reference too. Zach Attack Preppy. So I loved Saved by the Bell growing up. So, but who didn't really in our age range? So
I honestly never really watched it.
Oh man,
but but I had my other shows that same time period that I love.
Oh yeah, so many good shows around then. So well, thank you again, BB, for coming on. Truly honored to have you. I'm gonna shoot you some more DMs about some other cool stuff too. But yeah, we're gonna go follow BB on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all the things. Make sure everybody's homework is to watch her intro video and like it. Everybody's go to her YouTube, subscribe and like to that. Oh my God, it's so good.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys. See everybody. We'll see you. I will have one last interview next Sunday, and then I'm actually going to be going on vacation to LA and then do some other stuff. So, but we'll stay tuned to the Twitter and the Twitch and all the all the technologies and the socials, and let's go give Freyline our love. All right. So bye, everybody.
Bye.